Thank you for joining us for tonight's show. My name is Keiko Aguenna, and I am one of the new members of IMPRO Theater Main Company. Now, we recognize the immense challenges that artists and theater companies are still facing in the light of the pandemic. In our mission to spread joy, IMPRO has been active throughout the pandemic. In addition to our classes going online, we have presented over 350 live streamed shows for free. So I'm here, you guessed it, to ask for your support in our mission. Now, when you support IMPRO, you are helping us to offset those costs, to expand our programming, to strengthen our community, and to spread joy. And you're not only helping the performances, you're also helping the school, which is a vital, safe, welcoming place for artists of all levels and backgrounds. And we've made it very easy to make a donation. Just go to improtheater.com, click the donate button, or you can go to, you can text it from your phone, text IMPRO to 44321. That's 44321, text IMPRO. And we are a nonprofit organization, so it's completely tax deductible. Well, thank you very much for listening to this pitch and for making a donation. And please enjoy the show.
IMPRO Theater and the cast and crew of this online performance would like to take this time to honor the indigenous peoples of the ancestral and unceded homelands we each inhabit, and to consider the legacy of colonization and its far-reaching effects. Welcome to IMPRO Talk. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Rock, and coming up soon, our wonderful guest, Lauren Pritchard. But first, a couple of announcements. Coming up right after this show, another IMPRO Theater class show, Pulp Playhouse, improvised, directed by Brian Lohman. And at 8:15, Chekhov Anthology, which is entirely improvised short stories in the style of Anton Chekhov, directed by yours truly. Coming up this Sunday, Pulp Playhouse again happens at 2 o'clock on Sunday, and then at 3:15 another Chekhov, and then at 4:30 Love Improvised, directed by Maddie Goff, which is completely improvised plays in the style of contemporary romantic comedies. And then at 6 p.m. on Sunday night, Improvising Shakespeare, an entire improvised play in the style of Shakespeare, also directed by Brian Lohman. Coming up on Thursday on the IMPRO Theater airwaves on YouTube right here, Script Tease from Cold Tofu. Our friends over at Cold Tofu will be doing two completely improvised one-act plays inspired by the first two pages of scripts. And that's very exciting to have the Script Tease project from Cold Tofu on our airwaves. Thank you for joining us. And for all that information, you can go to improtheater.com and click on the appropriate links, or follow us on social medias, IMPRO Theater. And now she is an actor, an improviser, a writer, a director, a dancer, a musician, an all-around wonderful person. Please welcome to IMPRO Talk, Lauren Pritchard.
Hello.
There she is.
Mike Rock, I'm so excited to be here.
Lauren, what a delight to have you here.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
As we were saying right before we went to live on digital recording stuff, you have a new kitten in the house.
I do, yes.
And people who follow you on social media know that Tilden the cat has made his presence known. So I was hoping that Tilden could make an appearance, but as you were explaining to me, he is in the, did you describe it as the teen kitten phase?
It's like teen/toddler, that phase where they're just energy, fire, and hate and murder wrapped in fur, just for like a couple months before they get fixed, where he's just like, I need out. Ah!
So that's what it is. So it's a hormonal, it's a
hormonal
thing. So they go from super adorable baby kitten, and then suddenly the hormones kick in and they become kind of fierce.
Yeah, and they get like this kind of long face, like, I have a girlfriend in Canada. And he's just all gangly and he has no fear and all energy and rage. And he's so cute. He sleeps and is adorable, cuddly half the time, and the other half anything you're engaged in, he wants to put his claws and teeth into and destroy to explore it. That's how they explore and learn. But it also develops into shredding apart computer cords and pulling lamps down and bleeding. So you have to kind of make sure that when you're focused on him, you're focused on him 100%.
And you were telling me that you and Joe Roche have had you haven't had a kitten for a long time because
Oh, a long time.
right. So the
Yeah,
house
I rescued a cat 21 years ago. He became our 20-year-old cat, Ropes, that we dearly
ropes.
loved. We lost him right at the start of the pandemic, which was awful. We think he got the Rona. We don't know what, because he happened to
Yeah.
pass the first day of lockdown, which was awful. And
Oh.
it was just a really tough time for us. So we were like, we'll never have a cat again. We'll never love again. And then my darling husband rescued the alley cat we've been feeding for 10 years because her whole pod went away. So she was the last one. So she's now a feral, basically raccoon who lives in our bedroom. So we don't even go in there. We're still training her. And then I got notified a little bit after that rescue by a woman who said, I saw that you rescue cats. I just found a kitten in cement. I don't know what to do. He's at the corner of Tilden and Sepulveda. That's why his name is Tilden. He's trapped in cement. Please help. And so we got this cat out of cement, brought him right to the vet. They cleaned him up. He had fleas. He'd been eating cement. He was a mess.
Oh my
Like,
God.
well, we'll see if he survives. Let's give it a couple weeks and bottle feed him and clean him every day. And he got better and better and bigger and bigger. And now he's our cat Tilden.
And the videos you make at home of are amazing. You have to go to what? Tell me your Instagram so that people can find it.
I believe I'm Lauren P Comedy on most platforms. So Lauren P Comedy will get
Yeah,
you.
so please go to Lauren's social medias and see Tilden in action in various like movie trailers and other adventure videos and things like that he has. It's pretty amazing and a delight. But we were hoping he could make an appearance today, but he
He
is.
might by the end, maybe towards the tail end.
Maybe, yeah, I caught that. The long-faced adolescents.
I've got big paws that I like to bite. That's him.
So apart from
I'm so fast. Look how fast I can run down the hall.
so you built, but before we move on from Tilda, you built a like a cat adventure tube kind of a thing.
He has more space in the apartment than anyone else. We had to go out of town for a gig. I did a cool improv gig in Zion National Park, but he was still too young to be left to his devices.
Yeah.
And so our cat sitter recommended like finding a kind of big enough enclosure that he'd feel comfortable. We found this ridiculous pop-up tent that we both fit in. Like, it's a full tent that's a netting tent, and then it has a giant tube that runs around the outside so he can run in a circle and back into the tent. And it's basically like a giant cat habit trail, and it's adorable and it's huge, and he can see the hummingbirds out the window and run around the apartment, but it's still enclosed, and he's aware of the fact that he has a net that limits him from biting our feet when we walk by. So he's not thrilled about it, but it's huge. Like, you can literally fit two people in there and lay down. So.
Yeah. So confinement, but come on.
Yeah.
Pretty
cat confinement.
Cat confinement, yeah. I remember seeing posts, but what was the thing in Zion that you did?
Oh, Zion National Park was, we were so lucky. It was me and an improviser named Tom Clark with Funny Girl Events. They hired us to go out and perform at a beautiful resort in Zion. And they just wanted to bring more families to the resort. And Zion has been open. It's a beautiful park. And I love camping in national parks and hiking. And so it was a really great opportunity. It happened to fall on my birthday. So I was able to bring my husband to his 5-star resort and stay for free. And I specialize in family friendly comedy, and so does Tom Clark. So it was a way to kind of do family friendly improv. It was safe. We were outdoors and masked and wiping microphones, and we're both, vaccinated and boosted. So it was a really great opportunity to bring people outside, bring families together, and attract more people to the resort. And it's kind of what the resort wanted. They've been doing stand-up comedy and improv. We were honored to be there.
That's great. Tom Clark is also like a large pawed teenage hyper cat.
I have a wife. Her name is Stephanie. Oh, look how fast I can run. Yeah.
Tom and Steph have a podcast called I'm a Rescue. Speaking of rescue animals, and we've known Tom for forever. I knew Tom back in Wisconsin before coming to LA. And Lauren has an episode of I'm a Rescue also. So did you do separate sets? Did he do stand up and then you did your own thing, or
No,
did you
they
do
did
something
stand
together?
the weekend before. He and his wife, who I officiated their wedding, they're wonderful people.
This
weekend it was just the improv show. It's a Tom and Lauren 2-person improv show. It's basically kind of like some of the games we used to play in theater sports or comedy sports, but with family interaction. So basically, it's Tom and I doing the improviser parts, and the third player in each scene is an audience member.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's family friendly.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a fantastic opportunity to go to an amazing resort in a national
It was
park.
I mean, the backdrop behind us was the giant red rocks of Zion during sunset. So I just kept being like, our next game, wow. It's so beautiful.
Oh, I love it. I remember getting a corporate gig years ago in Cape Cod during like the most beautiful time of year in Cape Cod. And I was like, I can't even believe.
Well, I've traveled the world only through improv. And I'm sure you're similar. I lived in Venice, Italy. I got to live in Venice, Italy, thanks to improv, helping build the cruise ship for the Disney Wonder, doing the improv show on there. Got to go to London and see Stonehenge and do all those things. And every time I've been to, the Azores Islands in Mexico, all through improv. Like every random place I've ever traveled has always been through improv.
Yeah. Speaking of Disney, I'm jumping ahead for just a second, but you've done so many Disney things. Are they? Because you did SAC Theater in Orlando, and then shows at Epcot, and then theme park stuff here in LA, and then you've done some Disney TV shows like Disney, Stuck in the Middle, Sydney to the Max, Gamer's Guide. I think, is the Gamer's Guide also a Disney show? I think
Gamer's Guide to Everything.
So is it connected? Is your relationship to Disney from as an improviser who's done cruise ship stuff and that kind of thing connected to the TV stuff, or is it just coincidental?
Well, first of all, I'm from Orlando, so being in the theme park and working a theme park is kind of like a microchip they put in, and I think at a very young age, I'm like conditioned to be aggressively friendly and doing theme park energy, because I literally grew up auditioning for the Kids the Kingdom dance show every year. I auditioned for the Mickey Mouse Club with Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake. I got to visit school.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I got all the way to the very finale when I was 11 years old. I got to skip a bunch of sixth grade and keep going to all these callbacks for Mickey Mouse Club. And it was literally the generation with Britney and Justin. And you know what knocked me out? Improv comedy.
You got to be kidding me.
I got really, I'd always been a funny kid. Now I'd always been a dancer, but I didn't really understand the improv. And I went a little bit, not blue, but I talked about tattoos and piercings. And Disney Channel was like, I got really nervous.
Wait, you were 11?
I was 11 years old. Yep.
And you were talking about tattoos and piercings?
I had older siblings. I'm the youngest of 7 in a family. I was like, yeah. I was playing like the bad kid in the scene and drinking fake beers and stuff. And they were like, nah. And also I was really shy and nervous and just didn't know how to do it. And I was a dancer growing up for, I guess, 20 years.
Yes, you were a ballet dancer.
I did ballet for 20 years. Yeah. And tap and jazz and all those things that you do when you're a kid in Orlando. But my parents didn't really understand how to be showbiz parents. They knew how to put me in dance class, but that's kind of where it stopped. I wasn't one of those kids who had a headshot and like resume and all those things. My resume was handwritten by my mom. My headshot was a picture of me in a bathing suit holding an orange on the orange tree. Like it looks like I'm a missing child. It looks terrible.
Was that photograph taken specifically to be used as a headshot?
Yep. Because my mom was a model in the 50s. So she's like, this is what you do. You go outside and hold an orange and go like, in your bathing suit on your tippy toes.
That just makes sense.
Yeah, it seemed inappropriate looking back. Like, why am I? Yeah. So but I dreamed when I was 11 years old. Every year I'd cry if I didn't make it to the Parade Kids or the Kids the Kingdom dance show they did at Epcot. And I would dream of becoming a Disney cast member. It was just my dream because I just wanted, I would get so close every year. And I got to dance at Epcot a few times, but to become one of those Disney kids was a dream. And then weirdly, I graduated high school in 95 and I started doing improv in 91. With Wade and Brady as my first improv teacher. Then in 95, Steve Pernick, one of our fellow improv friends, invited me to come audition for the Comedy Warehouse, which is their Whose Lines It Anyway style show on Pleasure Island in the 90s. And I was just about to turn 18. I was turning 18 that year. And because I graduated high school 1 year early. And so I auditioned for the show. I got in the show, but they're like, well, you have to wait till you're 18 and the ink is dried before you're allowed onto Pleasure Island to start our show. So I joined the cast of this very well-established cast with the likes of Kelly Holden, who you know very well, and Steve Pernick and all these amazing veterans of improv. And I was like, I'm 18 years old. I'm tilting again.
Giant pause.
Yeah. And I'd been doing improv at that point for 5 years, but a 5-year improviser, looking back now as a very young improviser. At the time, I was like, I know everything but improv. But it was very improv musical comedy based. So that was my brain was already kind of made for that. So it worked out nicely.
That's an amazing.
But
I love it. Yeah.
I think having that Disney microchip parlayed well into the improv world and parlayed well into my resume, which I think helped me in my Disney Channel auditions. So right after Mad TV, which we're gonna do, I auditioned for Imagination Movers. That was a Disney Channel show, and I got a great guest star role on that. And I got to go to New Orleans and film for a week, and it was amazing. The guys were amazing, and I got to use my ballet and sing, and it was awesome. I did a little like basically Swan Lake, but dressed as a
Nice.
butterfly catcher. And then that luckily kind of moved me into Jessie. I auditioned for Jessie, and again they said that the choices you made were just Disney. You had that Disney thing, and then from there I got Gamer's Guide to Everything, Stuck in the Middle, and that was the third show where I played the villain in Disney. So when I acquired, I was like, why do I keep getting booked as the bad guy? They're like, well, because you can get away with saying mean, funny things, but your face is friendly. Where sometimes when people are mean on the show, it comes off as scary to kids. Like, but when you're mean, it's actually kind of funny looking, and kids don't get scared of you. So it's like they're like, you have a friendly face, but you're able to play mean. I was like, okay, great, because I was worried. I was like, why do I keep getting cast as a villain? And then luckily, Sydney to the Max, I was not a villain. I was a friendly handyman. So I've
I
done
love
5
it.
shows for them, and I've been so fortunate that keeps rolling over. I'm so fortunate to keep recurring on their shows.
Do you think that part of your like super atomic like force of improv in your career is like a constant referral back to the Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears audition period where yeah.
Well, and again, I talk very fast. I'm aggressively friendly and a little bit too much because I'm also the youngest in a family of 5 people. Mom and dad makes it 7, and we were all performers. All
Wow,
performers,
yeah.
all dancers, singers, musicians, and we all talked fast and loud. You'd have to stand up to get attention at the dinner table, and it was a lot of like, hurry up, get in there, or you're left behind. And I was the little young one, and it was 2 boys, 2 girls, and Lauren. So I was always kind of like the tomboy kid who wanted to play with both sides. And so I think, and there was a lot of tumultuous times. You know, growing up in a big family, there's going to be some tumultuous times. So I was always like, hey, look over here, everybody, da 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 da, stop fighting, kid. So I think a lot of it comes from a desperation to also make people happy. Yes, you know,
guilty.
I was very eager to please most of my life and make everyone stop fighting and just enjoy each other's company, which sometimes worked and sometimes did not.
Yeah, it's that is definitely the origin story for some of us. I mean, so it's really interesting to hear you describe that because a lot of it sounds very familiar to me personally. But were other members of your family like literally professionally performing arts people?
They all still are pretty much.
Oh, really?
Sister, yeah.
Wow.
The next closest person in my family is my older sister, who's 2 years older than me, Anitra Pritchard. She is a director out at Universal Studios Orlando. She helped open up the whole Harry Potter world there. And
Wow.
she's a very funny improviser, comedian, sketch performer, theater performer. She's every Mrs. Claus you've ever seen in anything. She is very Melissa McCarthy-esque, as we get compared to each other all the time in improv and comedy. And we got to play together at SAC Theater for the reunion, and she's just hilarious. She's like pretty much if you need anything funny female in Orlando, she's the person to go to.
Wow, that's great.
So our whole family, we did the Nutcracker every year.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that you
Yeah.
did ABT and
I auditioned for ABT. I never made it, but I did Southern Ballet Theater, which was Royal Ballet Theater back then, and Ballet Orlando. My sister Nature was the star because she was older than me at the time, so she was Clara, and she got to do all those amazing things. I was the child in the Nutcracker, and the Pulcinellas, and the cooks, and the soldiers, and all those things.
I was too. I was one of the kids. I didn't dance, but I ran.
Oh, okay.
I was fleet of foot. So I was Fritz, and Fritz didn't need to be a dancer.
Claire's
and
yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And then weirdly, my other 3 siblings were in the orchestra pit as cello, violin.
Oh my
and viola.
gosh, this is
And
amazing.
They're actually professional Florida Symphony people. They actually play in the Florida Symphony. They're professional, big time, travel the world. They play with Yo-Yo Ma. They've played for, the Broadway tours. They come through in Wicked and things like that. That's their official symphony members. My mom is the one who definitely got us into this world. She, as I said, was a beauty pageant girl. She was Miss West Germany. She was Miss Oscar Mayer. She was in Playboy. She dated Jerry Van Dyke at some point. She was a big time model and a flight attendant back when that was like you had to be a model to be a flight attendant those days. Singer, she was a singer, dancer, the whole thing, and then became a military wife when she met my father and got married very quickly. My dad is not a performer, not a singer, but he is the funniest guy in the world. Just picture Bob Newhart. That is my dad. He'll say he's not funny. He says he's not a performer, but for sure, all of our comedy, all of our timing, and I think all of our like kindness, our eager to please other people comes from my dad. My dad is just the kindest. He wants everyone around him to be having a good time and to know they're appreciated all the time.
Oh,
He's
I love
my
that.
mentor. Yeah.
Because of that sort of outgoing nature, as you say, aggressively friendly.
Yeah.
Did
It could
you?
be, it's like a meteor shower, like, oh, or ah, like there's like two types of like, oh, meteor, or it's coming right for us. It's very
Oh my
one of my essences, how do I shut this thing off? Like you wind up a toy, and you're like, oh, that's a fun toy. Now turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. Like it's that kind of
Um,
energy.
Lauren has just made a reference to Sam Christensen, and Sam Christensen was this amazing acting teacher here in Los Angeles who had started off as a manager and a casting director and et cetera, had a very long career before becoming an acting teacher. And the main thrust of his work with actors was to help actors figure out who they were at their core essence, so that when they walk in a room for casting or when they walk in a room to find representation, they know how they are coming off. And instead of sort of thinking to yourself like, well, I'm a leading man, James Bond type, and then you walk in the room and people do not see you that way, there can be a
Yeah. I always say like,
incongruity.
we're casting, we want to cast soda. We were looking for soda. And you go, well, like, well, I'm lemon lime. And this person goes, well, I'm classic American and rich in flavor. You go, okay. Those are two different
Yeah,
types of soda, but they both want the role of soda. But today we're looking for crisp, light, and refreshing. I'm going to go with Sprite.
yeah,
That's the difference of essences.
that's exactly it. Yeah. So I love that that you mentioned that. That's so great, because we've talked a lot of people that I've had on the show have talked about Sam and his
Oh, yeah.
influence. Due to that meteor shower, beautiful meteor shower versus aggressive. Did your family have like guests and friends all the time over at the house, or at holidays and that sort of thing, or was it
Not
just
really.
enough with the?
Weirdly, I'm just now getting to know my extended family now, which is weird. They were all very spread apart. Again, we were military, so we moved a lot in the Air Force. Luckily, they retired when I was young in Orlando, but we got to move from North Dakota to Orlando. Talk about culture shock. Remember my dad sitting us down and during a literal actual snow in blizzard and going, we're going to move where Mickey Mouse and the beach are. And I was like, what? I just pictured like a little island with Mickey on it. I was so confused about what that meant. But yeah, so culture shock. But my dad was in military defense, and that brought him down to Marietta in Orlando. And but we actually, after that move, some family came to visit, but mostly it was friends. But at that point, we had such an age separation of kids between the five. There's a 10-year age gap, so we were always out doing activities. So for me and our families, we were doing the Nutcracker all during the holidays, and I would get picked up from school and go right to dance for 4 or 5 hours, then come home late at night and try to do some homework that I did not do very well.
Wow.
And we were kind of showbiz kids, so we were not home a lot. We didn't really have a lot of people over. We didn't even really have friends over that much. Our friends were pretty much in our activities and our dances and our orchestras and stuff like that. So, I mean, we had the neighborhood kids over on the weekends, but pretty much we didn't really have people over a lot. Our house was kind of chaotic, as you can imagine. There's also 5 cats. So we didn't really have a lot of company. Yeah, our family was and again, we did the Nutcrackers. We'd come home on Christmas Eve, and that would be when the holidays would kind of start. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had. Yeah, I can identify with a lot of that, because we always had. My mother was always doing Christmas Carol. My sister was always either stage managing or doing some other technical job for the ballet, the Nutcracker, and I was always doing. I mean, once I got out of high school and was in college, I was always doing comedy. So the holidays kind of couldn't really start until all the shows were over, and then
exactly. And that was kind of all of my life events. Like my night of high school graduation, I had to rush out of graduation to go be in the musical Gypsy at the Civic Theater of Central Florida. And then my high school homecoming prom night, my prom date came and watched me do improv with Wayne Brady at Sac Theater.
I love it.
Because I got invited to do this cool show with Wayne. I was like, I'm gonna do that instead of prom. And my date at the time was a theater guy. He's like, cool. So yeah, my whole life has been, I work for Disney. So I work while others play. So I always work on the holidays and everything. Until recently, I've been able to kind of control my schedule more. I've done so many Christmas shows and so many holiday things that I pretty much am always performing for the holidays.
Yeah. That's, I mean, but that's showbiz people.
That's
I mean, and
showbiz.
how perfect that you did Gypsy, because
It's literally
that's literally about that very thing.
yeah.
So Joe, your husband, and
Mhm.
you have this. Well, there's a lot to talk about, but But the most current thing is Planet Dune. Can you tell us about Planet Dune, this movie that you co-wrote that is now out there in the world?
I wish that was the most current thing. There's already another one in the pipes. Joe, my husband, works for the illustrious Asylum Productions, which is the production company behind Sharknado, the giant Sharknado.
Yes.
And now Sharknado is kind of an one-off that they've done because they allowed comedy and cheekiness. Everything else they do is really legit, straightforward, serious sci-fi comedies or sci-fi dramas, action movies that are written in 6 days, edited in about another 6 days, cast during that time, and then filmed in under a month. So the whole thing happens in under a month for a very shoestring budget. Like the biggest notes we get are like, we can't do that effect, and you have to have the whole cast is 5 people. Like they just rewrite it again to make it inside one location that's clearly in a warehouse. So so my husband was writing for them and working for them, doing a bunch of different things. And then over the pandemic, he was like, hey, if you're just home and you're not working right now, how about helping me write some of these movies because it will help us go faster. So we became a writing team, which was a growing and learning experience because we're also married. When you write with a partner, you could be like, hey, that's stupid, write something else. But when you write with your husband, you can't. You have to be like, I love you, but let's not have the worm go through metal. Let's just not. And then we don't talk for an hour. So yeah, it's a different experience, but also it's a growing and learning thing for me because there's zero comedy in these movies. You have to be very serious and very scientific, 2 things I am not, and have kind of a math brain. I don't. And so he's really good at that stuff. He'll write the science, the math, the timelines, and actually be looking at the scientific data. And I'll be like, I'll write the relationship between the 2 people. So it's been really great. Well, you have to write so fast. And we just got our rewrites today for the next movie, 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. We just finished Meteoroid a week ago, which is another movie coming out. We also have Devil's Triangle, which just came out this week. And we have Robot Apocalypse, which came out just a month ago. So there's been a lot. But Planet Dune is a great example of what Asylum does. They write a movie that coincides with the release of a big budget film at the exact same time. So a couple of days before Dune came out, Planet Dune came out, featuring an almost all-female cast starring Sean Young of the original Dune franchise.
I love it. And Blade Runner, of course.
Yes, and Blade Runner and Ace Ventura.
And so many other films.
She was amazing. And
did you hang out with? Did you get to talk to her much?
Yeah, we got to be on the set, and Joe actually was an extra in the background just so we could say he was in a movie. I didn't want to be in the background. I was like, I'm good. And it was right during the peak of the heat, and we got to film our location on the Firefly set, which is incredible. Like it was just so fun, and it was so cool. We basically wrote Space Tremors. That's basically what we wrote, and it's a bunch of people trying to defeat sandworms in space. Having to do some community service. And it's a really fun movie, but the cast is incredible. They will take our schlocky words we wrote in 6 days, and the effects and the cast come together and make it incredible. And we're so impressed with how they make our words sound so good after we wrote them overnight.
And Asylum does everything. Do I have this right? They do everything in-house. Like everything is done. Like there's nothing. They don't farm out to some other company to do something.
They travel a bit. They have done some stuff in Florida to embrace the weather or the ocean. They've done some stuff in Atlanta to take care of, during when stuff was really shut down here, and Atlanta had a little more flexibility during COVID. They would do COVID safety procedures, but went to Atlanta to do that. So they had better buildings over there to use for the Robot Apocalypse movie. But generally, they try to film around the studios around here. They also do some Canadian Hallmark movies. They do some of those like Mar Vista style Hallmark romantic rom-coms. And those sometimes go up to Canada. So yeah.
Wow. Well, it's so. I mean, Tilden is going to end up in one of these projects at some point because everybody in the family needs to be involved. Even the feral. What's the other cat's name?
We have Boots.
Boots. Excuse me.
Her name is Boots because Boots was so lame. We named her Boots because she was just a feral cat that we fed under a dumpster. And so we didn't give her a clever name. We're like, oh, there's a fluffy one, and there's one that looks like he's wearing boots. So we called him for 10 years, found out it's a girl. 2, when we came and said her name is Boots, they're like, no, there's too many Boots in the system. You have to name her something else. We're like, Boots. Because we would always go, Boots. It's kind of how we called her. So whenever we say her name, they always go, Boots. We're like, yeah, that's how we say it. Exactly. But she is very sweet. She's just very shy. And so we don't touch her. And she just kind of is like the phantom of our bedroom. She just lives in our little cat trees. We feed her and she comes out and she's really scared. And we're still trying to we're trying to get to that cat behavioralist thing where we can, because we haven't introduced these 2 cats yet because they're really young. So that's a whole nother level.
Phantom of the Bedroom. I mean, I'm not telling Asylum how to do their job, but if they were to write an Andrew Lloyd Webber show,
This
Phantom
would be
of the
perfect.
Bedroom
It writes itself.
seems like it's during the entire pandemic. Lauren and Joe, well, it was a tradition before the pandemic, as I understand it, but they would make birthday videos for their friends. And what they would do, I love how I'm explaining what you would do.
Please do.
So they would take something that they know about their friend, like their friend is into painting, and their friend is into painting and has a big dog in the house, and maybe that friend always wears baseball caps or something. So Lauren and Joe would make a video where they have like artists' clothes on and painting easels in the background and a big dog and baseball caps, and they would write either a song or a poem or just a dialogue scene that's completely encapsulating the friend, but with clever oblique like artistic license as well, and post it on people's social medias for their birthdays and stuff. And during the pandemic, you must have done 1 million of these.
We did. I think we just crossed 200 towards the end, or like 180 something, or yeah.
How did that start? How did that come about?
Well, I feel like you gave us way more credit and way more clout than deserved because it was pretty.
These are in THX surround sound, 4K.
Well thought out. I mean, very well scripted.
They
planned,
are
not
they
at
are
all.
script. These scripts are airtight. I mean, you can't find.
Yeah. Here's how it really went down. So first of all, yeah, the pandemic happened, and if I don't get to perform and make people happy, I shrivel up. I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not helping someone laugh. Because I got into this. I'm sure you've heard this before. I got into this because when times were really tough in our family, we went through some really tough family times, as I know you have as well. And my escape was watching Carol Burnett, was watching Lucille Ball. It was my way of escaping. And I remember growing up thinking what a superpower that was, because people are isolated and alone out in the world. They might be, struggling with a disease somewhere in a trailer and have no one around them, but they could turn on their TV and feel like they have friends for 30 minutes to an hour or to whatever. And what an amazing like that's like being Mother Teresa to me, to be able to make someone
It
laugh,
is.
never get to meet, never get to see, you never get to hear the laugh, but you gave that to them somewhere in the world and they can feel a connection to humans. And to me, that's Mother Teresa and the oldest skill that I have on the planet, I think. And then when 2020 hit, I got worried that was taken away from me. That's like, oh, the one thing that I did was that's why I keep working in theme parks. Even when I'm on TV shows, I keep doing the theme park thing because I get to make real people laugh every day. Not fancy people, not executives, but real people that come through and just want to escape their lives for a little bit. And so when 2020 hit, we had a couple really sad friends. One of our sad friends was going through a real tough time. And so we made a silly little video for her and she thought it was pretty funny, posted on her thing. And then my sister-in-law, she had a big, huge birthday party scheduled in Germany. She's a German lady, and her trip obviously got canceled in March 2020. So we decided to be her German in-laws that were looking for her, or her German cousins, Klaus and Klaus, and we're just really German, had German people dancing. And it was like using my very limited, brand new green screen Zoom technology knowledge that I had at that time. And then my sister saw that and was like, my husband's birthday is this next week. Can you do something for him? So we dressed as the band Ghost. But we were like really nice, friendly, like, oh, hello, we're Ghost, and goth makeup, and like, oh, geez, it's your birthday. And then once those were posted, more and more people that we loved started going like, oh, that'd be great for my birthday. So our rule was, if we were in town with them, would we go to their birthday? Like if they were in the same neighborhood as us, we would probably go to their birthday party and buy them a drink or go to their house or whatever. So it was like, all right, would we be invited to their birthday party? Then they get a video. And then a few times we got asked to do videos, and a few times strangers even reached out and said, hey. And the craziest thing is we did 3 videos for people who passed away of COVID, which was
Wow.
incredible to
Wow.
be able to do that for people before they passed. Like one of my friend's wives, she said that was the last time I heard her laugh before they put her on the ventilator, was watching her 50th birthday video. And we'd never even met this woman. We just knew her wife, and they got it in New York, and we were so honored to be able to. They were in isolation. The wife had to be, separated from her. It was just such a tough time, but we got to make her laugh on her last day, which was insane. So, and 180 whatever videos later, yeah, and it became. So the crazy part was Joe kept working. He only took off for about 2 weeks because he worked alone at the Asylum production studios. They had everything was offsite, but he had to keep the building running. So he was at work and I was home alone without a cat, without a thing in the world. So I would plan ahead and get stuff set up. Joe would come in and just see me dressed as a wolf and go, "What are we doing?" And he would just sit down. And the best part about Joe is I would just put a costume on him, put him on camera, and he'd go, "What is it?" And I go, "All right, we're wolves, but we're really in love with this guy." Got it. And then he would just improvise it. And we would just improvise back and forth, yes and yes and. Sometimes it would end in saying happy birthday, sometimes it wouldn't. But we never had a script. It was just improvised. And he would just put on a costume and I go, "Do we look like robots?" I'm like, "I think so. Let's go." And we would just record it. And he just knew to agree with whatever I said, and we would have an angle. It'd be like, "We're these people with this angle." Got it. Great. So that was it. And it just kept going.
So you two are like the Asylum Studios of birthday videos.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm actually I miss doing them because now we're both back at work, and I actually miss doing them because it was like the way that we could tell our friends we love them. But at the same time, it was also, there were a lot of birthdays that happen all in the same week, and they would build up and we'd get busy, or we were writing scripts at the same time. So he'd be like, "After we finish writing, we have to do 12 birthday videos because we have to get them out there on time." And so it almost became like a joyful burden sometimes to him because he was working so much. I had all the time in the world, but he would have about a 2-hour period between getting home and having to go to bed that we'd do this. So.
And so it's interesting because there's a whole industry of cameo, and and
yeah,
what?
we have a dear friend who plays a parody of Trump, and he's really good at it. His name is Phil Wilburn. He's auditioned for SNL.
Yes.
He's a great impressionist. He was like, "Why aren't you doing cameo? You guys could be making so much money." But we're like, "Well, because we're doing it for the joy and the love of our friends. If it became a thing we're getting paid for, I think it would become a little more like, ugh." But it's still not. We still haven't stopped that idea. It's still out there that we could do that one day if we get desperate for money or we have to be on the road or something. But really, it was duct tape. We would duct tape and paper bags and blankets, our costumes. And because people go, "How do you have all these costumes?" I was like, "We don't. I'm literally picking up a paper bag and making it look like a robot face somehow." But it would somehow come together, and it would be like the same wig but just turned upside down. Like, we had like one grocery bag of props and costumes. The rest was just stuff from around the house, and we'd go like, "Does this look like a chicken?"
Like, if you watch the videos, you can see the same wig become like a beard, and then become mutton chops, and then become,
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. All right, so you're doing tons of shows at SAC Theater. You're doing I guess musicals at Epcot.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point you decide to go to Los Angeles. Was it because of other Floridians who had already moved to Los Angeles, like Brian Bradley's and the Kelly Holdens and the Steve Pernicks?
Well, yeah, it's always been my dream to be on a sitcom, as I said, and I knew from an early age that would have to happen probably in California. I'd always watch on beautiful downtown Burbank and be like, "Oh, I want to be there so badly." But yeah, I started improv in 91, was doing that through 99, got to work on the Disney Cruise Line, sailing around the world. And but I was always saving up my money to try to get to California one day. But at the time I was working with Jonathan Mangum and Wayne Brady a lot, and Jonathan Mangum gave me the advice of like, save up your money, become a big fish in a small pond, become SAG while you're in Florida because it's much harder to do in LA. Build up yourself and your career and know who you are, have your headshots, be ready to hit the ground running when you get to LA. So luckily, I did this cruise ship job, which saved me up some money, and I became SAG through Equity because Disney World is Equity, and I had done some shows down there, and I got to book a Nickelodeon game show tour. So I was a Nickelodeon game show host touring the country, which also helped kind of build up my Nickelodeon resume. So through that, I was able to live in Seattle for a little while doing that, and then that hooked me up to doing Nickelodeon in LA. At the Universal Studios theme park, they had a live Nickelodeon show. So I was able to pack my bags. I got an apartment. I started paying for the apartment before I even moved to LA because it was such a good apartment. My friend Tom Gibbous worked for what's his name? Did the countdown every year for the, oh my gosh, New Year's Eve countdown.
Ryan Seacrest? Casey Kasem?
First one. Oh God. Anyway.
For now, Dick Clark. So long.
I just blanked on his name. But anyway, he was able to help me get into his apartment where I had a beautiful 1-bedroom in Toluca Lake for $4.95 a month for 10 years.
Wow.
Like unheard of. So I started renting that. Moved out here. Right when I moved here, the Nickelodeon closed. But luckily, the casting director said, "You're so great. We're going to make you a Terminator 2 actress." Is doing a funny thing in there. So I was able to get a job right away with Universal Studios in 2000, and I've stayed there ever since. Been my paycheck to keep me in LA while I got to audition for everything else. But yes, the safety net I had was the group called House Full of Honkies, which was Jonathan Mangum, Claire Sarah, Joel McCrary, Wayne Brady, Dan O'Sullivan, all these great guys had moved out to LA and established a group of friends that I had as my safety net. I went to school with Matt Young, who was in that group. high school. So I had this immediate group of best friends to embrace and welcome me. But right when I moved to town, I was 23, I guess, 22, 23. I started producing my own improv show. So I was like, well, I'm not in their group. I can sub sometimes, but I'm not in their group. I need to start making my own show. So I opened up a show in Burbank called 99 Blanks and started doing improv and inviting all my favorite improvisers from town to play. And we toured all over town doing gigs and did stuff for, Boys and Girls Club of America and started getting remotes. And then that got me Comedy Sports because Comedy Sports was like, hey, you're producing comedy in our neighborhood. Why don't you join us? So, and then I stayed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you've performed at every improv and sketch comedy theater that there is in Los Angeles. You've
Yeah,
been all around the
pretty
place,
much.
which is amazing. And then eventually you do start doing TV. You start booking TV jobs, Sarah Silverman program, and then you had a good stint on Mad TV
Yeah.
and got to work with friends because Brian Bradley and Ryan Smith were there,
Yes.
and became friends with Matt Bronger and all those guys. Did that feel as much of a pinnacle of achievement as it seems from the outside?
It did. Well, it's funny because I was doing really well as a commercial actor for a little while. I was the Bank One girl for a while, and that was like kind of my thing. I did a bunch of little guest stars and commercials. That was my jam. I was kind of the plump, funny girl that was in a bunch of stuff because I was more plus size back then. And then tragedy hit when my landlord of my $495 a month apartment complex passed away. The place immediately fell apart. They stopped taking care of the place. His young nephew didn't know how to take care of it, and we got rats. And I got rat and foul mites in my apartment.
Oh God.
Rat and foul mites are like fleas that bite you and leave horrible welts. And rats overtook the building. So I had to go live in a hotel. I had to put my poor cat in the vet. I lived in a hotel and like delouse myself. And I was basically homeless. I was out of money, full of bites. I was alone in the world. I was very single, very plus size, very alone. And so I started writing a blog about the rats. And Ryan Smith, one of my dear friends from SAC, and Brian Bradley were like, this is really funny. You should try to write for Mad TV. And Ryan Smith said, well, actually, we're having auditions. You should just try to audition. And I warned him. I was like, oh, I'm not good at that 3-character, 3-impression thing. I've tried the Groundlings route. I tried this. I had tried to audition for Mad TV in 2000, and I was so bad. They literally like held up my headshot and went, oh. I said, like, give me some celebrities and I'm going to improvise this. Or I said, give me the product and these celebrities will improvise it. So I was just trying to improvise it. And my manager afterwards said, yeah, they said you weren't prepared. You improvised it. And I was like, that's what I do. And they're like, no, they wanted you to write it. I was like, okay. I just wasn't prepared. I didn't know yet. I hadn't done all the things yet. But luckily I did end up, learning how to do the process, found out, all right, what celebrities do I kind of look like? What can I kind of get away with doing? I played my guitar and sang a funny song, and I never thought I'd get it. Again, I was about 250 pounds at the time. And I, at that point, had not seen a plus size girl in late night TV before. And I just knew that there were better people in the world. I was like, there's better people out there. And I was so low at the time. I was just so low on myself and on my life. And I was like, I have nothing to lose. I had the energy of someone who's like, well, hi guys. I know I'm not going to get this. I got rats in my house. I'm homeless. Here I am. Like I was so done.
Wow.
I had no fear because I had nothing to lose. I was already at rock bottom and I was probably gonna have to move back home if things didn't go well. And I just kept going. And every time I'd go back to the audition, there'd be another suit in the room and another suit, another suit, another suit, until the last audition was at Fox Studios with a amphitheater full of executives watching us. And it was me and these incredible people, 2 of which didn't get it, but went on to have huge TV careers. I cannot believe I got it over that. That's crazy. But they got to book it with our friend Eric Price, who I also knew through the outside world, which is incredible. And it was a dream. Like it was a dream. We got to do 14 episodes of this incredible TV show for the final season of the original Mad TV franchise.
Yeah.
And the only thing I wish I could tell myself, my young self now looking back, is I wish I would have believed in myself, because every day I had imposter syndrome. Every day I was like, I should not be here. They're going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. But I did. And I had some funny ideas, and I should have just not let people bowl over me as much. I should have been more confident, because I think when you come in with lack of confidence, it can just be unlikable because it makes people have to build you up. I wish I would have had confidence, but not been a jerk. Just been like friendly and cool and calm, but instead I was a little needy, which I think that's my one thing I would take from that lesson of like, just if you got the job, act like you deserve it and move on. Don't apologize for being there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great advice. Imposter syndrome is a sinister thing that can get under your skin.
Yeah. And also anyone who that has done late night TV, has done SNL or Mad TV or anything like that, you really kind of are auditioning every week. Every week you have to pitch ideas on a Tuesday. They're written by Thursday, and then you perform them for a table read. And if they go well, you get to go on camera and you get more money. So those people that you watch SNL and you don't see them on that week, it's because they didn't get on camera that week because their stuff didn't land. And that it's basically a weekly audition. And to be a female in that environment, especially it's tough because you have to be the loudest, fastest, funniest in the room, and you have to command respect. And we had some legacy females in our cast that were just so amazing. And I was a seasonal coming in there trying to do my thing. And it's a tough place to be. So anyone who's ever been on a late night TV show, I always have to be like,
Big respect for them.
You have to have a tough skin. Yeah.
And like you said, particularly women and people who are not, cisgendered straight white men.
Right. Well, and I will say that's different now, but that was 15 years ago. It was different for sure. It was 2020. So it was just starting to kind of flip over more. The women on our team were amazing and powerhouses. Oh my gosh. But it was a different time. It still was a different time. And what we were laughing at was a little different. I remember I was trying to do a Paula Deen sketch. I had a really funny musical Paula Deen sketch where she was going to do all I want to do is and I take your money. It was a little musical parody spoof of the very hit song. And Paula Deen was huge. And our producer said, there's nothing sexy about a fat old lady.
Oh, God.
I was like, that's true. But that same week, SNL did a Paula Deen sketch and it was huge. And so it's like, man, it was a different time. And I think now producers would totally love that. But at the time, it was just like, we want it sexy and funny and fast and slick. And, so.
And it's interesting that because of the place where you were in your life, it was, hard to feel confident walking into those auditions. I imagine there were multiple callbacks.
I think it was 11.
Yeah.
11. Wow. Yeah.
So you're being evaluated over and over again before they decide that you're, the one they want. But you had already done in your life, you'd already done so many shows, so many improv shows and comedy shows and musicals and touring, and you've been in front of so many audiences under so many different circumstances, like probably crappy corporate holiday parties and shows in a theater with 100 seats but 3 audience members and packed shows with 1,000 people, etc. But there's something about that auditioning process that can just get under your skin when you're not in a great place in your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that would be one thing I would definitely say to people is like the idea of not letting the real life get to you and just still be a professional, putting your best foot forward the best you can is so huge, because it can affect you, because what we do is show people is we really are putting on a mask and putting out our best foot forward, and letting your real life influence you and influence your art is awesome. But I think it's really, really important to not let it darken what you do, because I see that a lot of time around me, and I have, this is probably my biggest advice is like, don't let jealousy, don't let financial fears and insecurities and failures in your own life influence how you treat the people around you at your jobs, influence how you walk through life, influence how you treat others, because it'll just tear you apart inside. Like, everyone deserves to be booking, everyone deserves joy, everyone deserves the gigs they're given, and you're going to go through some tough times and still have to put your best foot forward. And I have had some dramatically difficult times. My brother passed away suddenly, tragically, the night before I had to go on for a big show called Show Offs for BYU TV. It was a big musical improv comedy show I got to do 2 years ago. My brother died tragically and suddenly. We buried him, and I had to go right for the funeral, onto a plane, and go do this TV show because I was under contract and I didn't want to let them down. And I had to just kind of put the tears down and go for it. And there were some major life events that have happened, loss of a child, miscarriage, and still doing our improv comedy shows that same night. And I literally did an improv comedy show the night that I found out my brother passed, because I was already there and I didn't know what else to do. So I just did the show. And I'm not saying I don't want to say be a psychopath, but I mean, like, the show must go on. I don't think that Harrison Ford goes like, guys, I had a bad day, I'm just not going to film today. He does his show. And Robin Williams, I got to work with Robin Williams on the show Crazy Ones. He was going through some major life things, as we now know, but he was a gentleman. He was kind. He was hilarious. He was professional on the set, and he still made the world laugh, even through all of his darkest moments in life, obviously. So I think, just make sure you take care of yourself, get mental health, but don't take it out on the world around you, and don't punish yourself or let it eat you alive. Like, use it for your art, but keep putting your best stuff out there to make the world a better place, and it'll help you stay on course, I think.
That's amazing. Those are amazing thoughts that bring us right back to Gypsy and there's no business like show business.
Yeah.
We smile when we're low. I think it's critical to know your limits and to know what your what resources you have and what you have in your energy bank, um, and to take stock of your friends and your family and your support system, and not be afraid to reach out and all that sort of thing. And if you do choose to keep putting yourself out there, like you say, if you do choose to, keep auditioning, keep doing shows and stuff, just bring your best to it.
Yeah. And I, of course, I want you to secure your own oxygen mask before you perform for those around you. Of course, take care of yourself mental health wise. But I guess my biggest regrets when I look back in my career, I was thinking about this today, is like those times I did lash out, or I did get insecure, or I did get jealous, and I wanted to tear down the people around me to make myself feel better, or lash out, or feel insecure and be mad at the world for not giving me what I wanted. Those are my darkest times, where I wasn't booking, where I wasn't playing with the people I wanted to play with. The people who I admire, who I see working all the time, are Edie Pattersons and Chris Tallmans, those guys who you just want to be around them because they're kind, they're giving, they give out light, they don't take it away from others. They're always happy for everyone around them, and they're just professionals. They show up and they do their job, and they don't gripe about their lives while they're there. You know what I mean? They do their
Yeah.
job. And then they gripe about their lives to personal friends and family, loved ones, and therapists.
Right.
So yeah.
Of course. Those are great words. You mentioned the crazy ones and working with Robin Williams. That really must have been an amazing opportunity to meet and work with him. And
Oh yeah. And weirdly, the week I was filming that show, I was taking my friend through hospice. I was her hospice person for 2 months. And the week I filmed that show, she was put into morphine times. Like it was the end of life for her. And we knew, the doctor said, like, she's going to pass this week. And I was talking about Robin Williams. She was really alert and excited. And he said, you might want to say goodbye before you leave tonight. So when I hugged her and said goodbye, she said, say goodbye to her, or say hello to Robin for me. And that was the last time I saw her. I was in the makeup chair, literally next to Robin Williams, when I got the call that she passed. And I wasn't there. After being with her for 2 months, I wasn't there. And the first person I told was Robin Williams, which is insane. And he hugged me and was like, I'm so sorry. I'm here for you all week. He was also going through so much in his life at that time. We now know that he had an illness. And he was so kind. I was terrible on that show. I will admit, whenever I see the producer of that show, I've run into her a few times. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Because I was a maniac. I had lost my friend and I was just trying to be like, I'm on camera, because my friend had died, and I just had to film the show that whole week and pretend like it wasn't happening. And I would leave there, go home and help with funeral arrangements, then come back and do the show. It was a really tough week. But she wanted me to be there. She knew that that was where I wanted to be. We knew she was passing. It wasn't sudden and tragic, but it was still really hard. But I was terrible on the show because I was way over the top, because I was like, I had such a mug on that I remember hearing them go like, she's running the scene. I was like, that's me. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm being too over the top, because I was trying not to cry the whole week. It was tough, but he was such a perfect example, and he was so kind to all of us. I got to be on the show with some incredible improvisers and actresses as my sisters. And remember, we told his wife, like, oh, you're married to Robin Williams. How great is this? And he said, no, I'm the lucky one to be married to her. Just like,
oh,
and
yeah.
he surprised all of her friends by driving them all out, or flying them all out, and going on a big birthday trip for her. It was just so great. He was such a great guy, and he was really soft spoken and shy and gentle and kind, and he was so great. And he kept checking with me, like, are you okay? And I was like, thanks, Robin Williams, I'm great, thank you. Like, don't worry about me, you're Robin Williams. Oh my god. But he was like,
Oh my gosh.
Okay? Yeah, he was so great.
But that's such a wonderful testament to him. So you end up doing a lot of TV appearances, True Blood and How I Met Your Mother in Vegas and Modern Family, and then all the Disney shows that we talked about. Is there a different? This is going to be forgive me for how sort of obvious this question is, but is it a different energy working on like a traditional network, like procedural or traditional network sitcom or something, versus a Disney universe, Disney cinematic universe?
Totally. Well, it depends on the camera, because if it's single camera Disney versus 3-camera, even that's
Sure.
different. 3 camera is basically theater, and that's what I love. I love the sitcom. A single camera, you have to bring it down a little bit. Luckily, as you know, I feel sorry for you having to edit this because I talk so fast. I'm a little over the top. Disney Channel loves that because it's big, bold, deliberate moves. But of course, True Blood and other things are like, bring it way down. But the funny thing was, I was so excited when I got to book recurring on True Blood, because I was like, finally, I'll have some drama on my reel. This is a vampire sexy show. I'm gonna probably have these serious scenes, and every scene I have is like, "Plunk, plunk, plunk, plunk. Oh, hello, guess what? Like they're all so over the top because
The
they yes,
gossipy waitress
exactly.
lady.
We were in, well, the scenes we were in or the episodes we were in were so heavy that they wanted a little comedy relief. So all of my scenes are so wacky, and I was like, dang it, because every comedian always wants to do drama because there's obviously a dark side in there. But every scene I was in was so wacky. But the big thing I learned is the table reads. Oh, but I'm sure you've experienced this. All the people, they talk like this in the table reads. So I'm across from these ridiculous, sexy, tall vampires. Alex and I mean these ridiculous. I mean the cast of True Blood who I'm talking about, like all these
Yeah.
big shots, and they're like, "Oh, I'd like to get it. Oh, you like an iced tea?" Like I'm so loud, like making the room laugh. They're like, and I'm like, I can barely even hear if they've stopped talking. Is it my turn to talk? Have they stopped their line? Especially if they're across the table, I'd be like, yeah, we want some Mountain Dew. Like it was just the weirdest. And I learned that too on 911. I got to the show 911 pretty recently, and same thing. They are all so good. They say their lines really quietly and under their breath and to themselves. And I'm like, yeah, it happened over there. Like just so over the top. I'm still doing gypsy forever in my mind. So, and that's been the hardest thing, is when people tell me to make it smaller, I know that they mean be less than who I am as me. Like I'm not just making it me. I'm making it less than Lauren. I have to be like pretend I'm asleep and I just woke up and I say my lines because I can't be me. Obviously, I'm already a Play-Doh face Muppet, animated person. So I have to just be like, "Hello, it's like so nice to you." Like
Lauren's new book, Play-Doh Faced Muppet. Play-Doh Faced Muppet, what person?
Oh god, and I'm like an animaniac. Like I'm a human
Animaniac.
animaniac came to life, and
Her new book is
so I have to
coming
be
out.
less than me. I have to like take a deep breath. And even when I look back at these self tapes, like, oh, I nailed it. I'm so small. I'm like, oh my god, why do my eyes get so big when I say this? I'm like, yes, I like coffee. Like, geez, just say I like coffee. But even in my real life, that's how I treat. You've seen me. That's how I am.
Aggressively friendly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Disney Point. Disney Point.
That 2-finger point, that's a Disney point?
Yeah, so I literally cannot do this. Like this feels incredibly rude to me.
Lauren, for anyone who's just listening, I should have been translating throughout the entire, but for anybody who's just listening, Lauren is doing a single finger point.
Sorry, yes.
Traditional single finger point, and you say you can't do that anymore.
No, you do an open hand or 2-finger point at all times, kind of like what flight attendants do, because it's really rude in some cultures to point with a single finger because it can almost be a fu to people who don't know, or if they're from far away, it looks like you're pointing at someone and they're like, me? Oh no, are you pointing at me? So if you do an open hand or a signal with your 2 hands or 2 fingers, it shows that you're giving direction,
indicating something instead of
So that microchip was implanted in me in early 95, and I've just always done it since. And so everywhere I go, people think I work there. I'll be at Target, I'll be wherever, and people always go, hi, where's your diapers? And I A, tell them because I'm aggressively friendly, but B, then I go, I don't work here, by the way, because I make eye contact, I smile at everybody, and I'm always like being so over the top that people think I work everywhere I go. It's kind of a blessing and a curse.
That brings up an important thing, because you have probably experienced, I'm guessing you've experienced occasionally being somewhere, Target or Walmart or wherever, and having kids and parents recognize you from a show, or maybe even adults recognize you, people who are fans of comedy recognize you from Mad TV or whatever, and you are probably not able to not pay attention to them. You probably give them directions to the diaper section.
Of course. I am really not recognized at all, very much, because 10-year-old boys don't make that connection. Like kids just don't really make the same connection. But a few times I did get recognized, mostly for Disney Channel, for Jessie and Gamer's Guide and a couple other ones, Stuck in the Middle. But generally, when I'm working at Disney or at Universal, or 1 or 2 times in a restaurant, but kids just don't have that same connection. They just go like, oh, she looks familiar, but they don't go like, that's the woman from TV. They just don't see it that way. But a few times I've been asked, and of course I go out of my way to get pictures and ask them about themselves and do a funny video for them. Mad TV, I never got recognized because I never played myself ever. I was always a man. I was generally playing dudes a lot. I had so much makeup on. I was usually so undercover as costumes that I never got recognized at all.
You played Michael Kors.
Yes, I played Michael Kors. I played Renee, Celine Dion's husband.
Celine Dion,
So I didn't really get recognized as myself a lot on that show, of course. But yeah, and it's just I love making people feel good. So if someone does recognize me, I'm so happy to go out of my way to say, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Oh my goodness, and get a picture. And yeah. So I usually that only happens when I go to a celebrity event and I'm there as myself from Disney Channel and I'm there to be recognized. That's when people feel comfortable coming up and getting pictures and talking. But I love to meet people. And back when I was more plus size, because again, I've lost 140 pounds. When I was more plus size, I got a lot of women of size who would be like, you really helped me out. It's so great to see women my size reflected on TV and being sexy and being funny and being out there, which really was important to me. That
Yeah.
was so great. I think now it's much more commonplace, but again, 15 years ago, it wasn't as common. So
Well, Lauren, thank you so much. I can't wait for more of these asylum movies that you and
Get
Joe are
ready.
working on to come.
I hope you like meteoroids. Spoilers. It's about a meteoroid.
I really hope you can pitch a Tilden the Cat a based story to pitch it to Asylum, see if they'll pick it up.
I would love it. I think a cat scratch fever thing could come up because I really worry to have cat scratch fever or like someone because he just bites and scratches me all the time. I'm like, I'm probably gonna get that disease, right? That's probably a thing I'm gonna get. He's a kitten.
Oh man. Well, listen, thank you so much. Go to Lauren's social media. Lauren P Comedy is where she is most places, and get updates on Tilden the Cat, etc. And City to the Max is still
now airing.
happening.
Yeah, and I have a show coming out in about 2 weeks on Insecure on HBO. I play a funny life coach on the show Insecure for its final season. It's a great show. If you've never watched Insecure, please watch it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a fluke I booked during COVID, and I'm on one episode. They might edit me out, but that was an incredible cast, incredible director to work with, and I play like an improv coach basically, who's like doing team building. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, congratulations on that. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
It's such an honor.
It's my honor and it's our honor. And thank you for watching. If you're watching and if you're listening, thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time. More from Impro Talk, etc. Thank you.
Bye.